Okay, good evening, everybody, and welcome to the Biggleswade Town Council meeting this evening. This is the usual reminder to meeting attendees that this is a formal meeting. I can advise that members of the public will be given an opportunity to speak during public open session, but not at other times. The meeting is being filmed, and by being present, attendees are deemed to have agreed to be filmed and to the use of those images and sound recordings. Attendees should not disclose any personal information of individuals, as this would infringe the data protection rights of that individual. And as usual, please ask everyone to mute their microphones when not speaking. First item on the agenda is apologies for absence. We have Councillor Patel, Councillor Skilton and Councillor Woodhead. Apologies, everyone else is here with us this evening. Next item is declarations of interest. So any declarations of interest in relation to any item on the agenda, either pecuniary or non-pecuniary, please. Councillor Russell.
Non-pecuniary in item 10E, planning application. It's a neighbour. Okay,
thank you very much. Any others, members? No? Okay, thank you very much. Next item is Town Mayor's announcement. So I've got a couple of things happened over the last few weeks. Firstly, on Tuesday the 19th of September, I attended Mantles Court Care Home in London Road for a tour and an afternoon tea with some of the lovely residents there. They looked after us very well. You're probably aware the home provides residential and dementia care and respite care. It's a lovely facility, actually, and actually if you have the opportunity to go and have a look around, and they're more than welcoming. There is a spa, there's a hair and beauty salon, there's a cafe and lounges, the dining room and a cinema, and to be honest, it's just a lovely environment, actually. To be fair, I've been to Mantles Court previously, because if you remember, I visited to see the Sylvia Suit's 100th birthday, and actually Councillor North and I also visited again, so it's almost as if we're overdoing visiting Mantles Court, but it's a really great facility. On the 23rd of September, we had the Green Wheel Walk from Dan Albo round to the White Hart, so some members of the council and residents. So we raised about £140 for that, which is really good for the three charities. On the 4th of October, I had a tour and met with residents of Camomile Gardens, which is, as you may well be aware, is a large building in Sorrel Way, Cardamom Street, I think we named the street, which is comprises 93 one-bedroom and two-bedroom apartments there for independent living and sort of tailored care and support. And again, a lovely facility and nice to meet the residents, and they looked after us well as also. And then on the same day, we also had the Elvis and Curry night. So without going, it was an interesting combination for those of you who've have not been. I know there's some members who are very keen on Elvis and very keen on Curry, and some members are keen on neither. But the main thing was that we were able to welcome other town councillors, mayors from other towns, residents, and the upshot was, with great entertainment and great food, we've managed to raise around about £1,500 for the three charities, which I think is excellent. Not sure the exact final number yet. I'm sure we'll have that in due course, but I was really pleased with that. I'm going to move on to the next item then, which is the public open session. Have we got anyone? No one? Nope. Okay. We've got item 5 is invited speakers. We have none. So item 6 is members' questions. Do I have any members' questions, please? No. Okay. No members' questions. Thank you very much. So we're going to, next item then is the minutes and recommendations of meetings. So we're firstly going to do the town council meeting. So we're on page 7, and this is from Tuesday, the 12th of September. So for accuracy first, please, page 7, page 8, page 9, page 10, page 11, and page 12. Okay, so you're happy for me to sign those off, and we'll do that in due course. And the next item then is the minutes of the F&GP meeting. So usually we would be noting these, and I think it's probably prudent to note it, but there was one significant factor here in that we didn't resolve the grant situation, which so I think it's the minutes here are to note, but we will deal with an element of grants later in the meeting. Okay, if members are happy with that. Yep. Okay. Thank you. Nodding there. So I'm going to go back then. So for the F&GP, we won't be dealing with any matters arising unless it's anything specifically, Councillor Strong, that you wish to raise. But with the Town Council minutes, we're going to go through the matters arising again. So on page 7, please, anything? Page 8. Page 9. Councillor Russell.
Can I just say a word about the BATPC AGM? The annual meeting of our council asked for 3 members to go to the annual meeting of BATPC, and they go and they have a vote on behalf of the Town Council. Hopefully I will be re-elected to the county committee. If there are more nominations than seats on the county committee, then there'll be a vote at the annual meeting. If other councillors want to come along, then they must let BATPC know for catering purposes. But otherwise, they won't have a vote. It's only the 3 nominated members. I just wanted to make that clear.
Thank you. Councillor North.
Well, just to take this opportunity, I think this meeting is next week, isn't it, the 18th?
Yes.
And I am a designated attender, but will not be able to attend. So we need to appoint a replacement for me to go to this meeting.
Okay. Thank you for that.
Volunteers.
So are there any volunteers at this stage? Don't all show at once. No. Okay. So I think what we'll do then, members, we will park that for now. But if you feel that you are able to represent the council, please feel free to either contact Councillor Russell or contact Peter, so we can actually get some representation from on behalf of the council, please. And
then the council needs to formally notify BATPC of the 3 voting members.
Sure. Okay. Thank you. So any matters arising on page 10? Page 11, Councillor Albert.
Yeah, it's item 9D. So on top of page 11, members resolve for officers to respond to CBC with the above concerns. This is about the one-way system in Lawrence Road. So maybe it's a little bit early, but has there been any response from CBC? No, there hasn't. Okay, thank you.
Worth just following that, just to double check where we're at with that. Okay. Anything else on page 11 and page 12? No. Okay. Thank you very much. As I say, we'll leave F&GP unless Councillor Strawn, you've got anything you wish to add in relation to F&GP?
No, I think anything that it needs to be raised is covered elsewhere on the agenda.
Lovely. Thank you very much. So I'm then going to move on to 9A. So this is around the play areas and equipment and replacement report, etc. So members, Councillor Russell.
Thank you, Chairman. We have 5 projects on the agenda which are supposed to be funded from the Public Works Loan Board. They are all very worthwhile. We're committed to one of them, the Drove Road Chapel, because the project is halfway through. So it would be very difficult to stop it at this point. But as far as the other projects are concerned, they're not yet fully costed. We haven't got the final figures from the tender process. And we've not finally committed to go ahead with any of them. To me, there are 2 issues for council to consider. One is the detailed approval of the project designs, and the other is the finance, which is currently, as I said, due to come from the Public Works Loan Board. 2 years ago, council approved a PWLB loan to be drawn down over 3 years to enable capital projects to go ahead in the town, some of which were long overdue, like the restoration of the Grade 2 listed chapel at Drove Road. It was agreed that the tranche to be drawn down each year would be decided when detailed specifications had been out to tender, so that full costs were known. Council has also agreed since that this is a major financial commitment and all decisions regarding PWLB should be taken by Council. We made these earlier decisions about the loan in the previous Council, so some colleagues round the table were not involved and will not know the details of the process. Since we made the original decisions, we've faced two financial issues as a country: a high level of inflation and higher interest rates. I know colleague members feel the same. I'm concerned about the impact of these two national issues on the costs of the PWLB loan and the overall impact on the precept over the next few years. I've got a further issue about these projects. The implementation of the Franklin's project had an adverse impact on the usual work of the Public Realm team, despite their best efforts and very hard work. 4 of the projects on the agenda tonight are Public Realm, and although we have a capable Public Realm team, I'm not convinced that they have the capacity to go forward with all four at the same time. So I'd like to make a proposal to address some of these concerns. So first of all, I propose that the final designs and costings of these projects should be approved by PLOS, unless the chairman decides it would be more efficient for the decisions to be taken by council. I think that's PLOS's decision. The second proposal is that a further report about the PWLB loan should be brought to our meeting on the 24th of October, which we now, I think, are about to decide will be a full council. So I think that report should show our current commitment and the effect on the precept for the medium term. It should also show the impact on the precept of each of the 4 projects being proposed tonight, and therefore the overall impact for the medium term if all the projects were to be approved by council. Even with the proposed report, we would still not be in a position to know the full effect of the coming year's precept, of course, given that the normal expenditure of the council and any other essential growth items are not finalised yet. These figures will all be put together in the next few weeks for consideration by council as part of the budget process. However, members need to be aware of the way that the PWLB loan operates. For example, is the interest rate fixed? How many years will it take to pay it off? How much is capital being paid off? How much is interest being paid off? And we need to understand what the impact might be in the medium term on the other work of the council. I think we all want the projects to go ahead for the benefit of the town, but it'd be prudent to make the decision to go ahead, but it would not be prudent to make the decision to go ahead without the full financial information. And then there's a third part to my proposal, which is that we defer the decision on which or all projects to go forward until our November council meeting. So my idea is that we have a look at the PWLB loan on the 24th of October. And when we've considered that and had a chance to think about it, and when we're a bit further along the budget process, that we make the final decisions at our council meeting in November. So I'm talking there about 9A, B, C, D and F, which are all down to the Public Works Loan Board. So a 3-point proposal from me. First of all, that the final designs and costings of the project should be approved by PLOS. Secondly, that we need a further report about the PWLB loan on the 24th of October with all the issues that I mentioned earlier. And thirdly, that we defer the decision, the final decision on going ahead with which projects to the November meeting. Thank you, Chairman.
Thank you, Councillor Russell. First off proposal, does anyone want to second that proposal at this stage? Okay, Councillor Knight, thank you. Councillor North, you wish to speak?
Okay, well, I think Councillor Russell has raised some very interesting things. In some senses, I'm inclined to agree with it. I mean, we can have an extraordinary meeting of PLOS in 2 or 3 weeks' time if we need to. But I would just like to clarify, firstly, the Drove Road project is different from the others in that it's already going on and we've agreed to it and it's happening. So I think I would like to exclude that from your motion and let that carry on as previously decided, and what is actually happening. But the 4 here are basically, these were discussed at PLOS, and really, and I certainly agree with the concern about the public realm team being able to handle all these 4 projects more or less at the same time, when we know what happened when we were just doing one, almost a year ago. In effect, the reports that are here are just saying PLOS supported the continuation of the tendering process. Does the council agree that we should continue with that process? It's not, in a sense, there's not really a decision to be made, except do we continue with the tendering process and get a final design, final cost, the actual cost, because these are all estimates in here. And when we've done that, it will come back to council and the council will agree to it. So that can be done, and maybe we'll have the definite figures by November, or maybe we won't. I would hope we would have some definite figures. So that's fine. I mean, that fits in with really what would have happened anyway. So subject to taking out Drove Road, I would support the proposal really, because I would just like to stress that if you actually look at the reports here for A, B, C, and D, all is being said is, does the council agree to continue with the tendering process? It's not a definite decision to do anything. Okay. Other than that, it's not a decision to spend money. It's not a decision to actually go ahead with any of the work.
Okay, thank you, Councillor North. That's fine. Okay, Councillor Knight.
Thank you. So I support the proposal. So I think for me, the challenge is that I think all of the projects are good and sensible, but we are in the middle of a procurement process, and I don't see an advantage in essentially resolving along the lines of the officer recommendation to proceed with drawdown until we've completed that procurement process. So for me, that's the biggest hurdle. Once we've chosen a supplier, we know exactly what we're getting, we're happy with the terms. At that point, I think it's the right time to make the decision to draw down on the PWLB and not before that. And in the meantime, I agree with Councillor Russell, there's some diligence we can do around testing the affordability and making sure that that's not going to have an unacceptable impact on our residents.
Okay. Anyone else? Councillor North, yes, go ahead.
Well, I don't think there is a decision being made to draw down any money. It's not.
It is.
It is.
Okay.
Well,
Councillor Barrett.
That's not my reading of it.
Councillor Barrett.
I feel as if the 3 councillors who have spoken before me are sort of all saying the same thing. And I think it's important we just distinguish the different elements in here. I think that's what's confusing it slightly, that we have got the tender process that perhaps you could argue is separate. We've got the drawdown of the finance amounts, which we've all heard have previously been agreed, those amounts to be used, and they are in this year's budget, is my understanding. So previously they have been agreed. But I do agree that the understanding of PWLB, because there are a number of new members in the room, in the chamber, perhaps we should have that extra information about exactly where we are with PWLB through the report on the 24th. So there's a bit of me that says that we can accept that the tendering processes here should be allowed to continue, but we can't sign off on the amount of money that gets drawn down because we don't actually know the exact amount at the moment. It may be very close to the numbers that have already been presented to us, but I think it's prudent on our part to say we can't agree to that part. But I also agree that we must have a little bit more information about PWLB, and I apologise if I'm one of the only people in the room who doesn't know a lot about that, but I don't have that detail to hand, and I would certainly like that before I need to have to make a decision around these numbers, if that's okay.
Thank you, Councillor Barrett. Councillor Thomas, then Councillor Strawn.
Yeah, I'm one of the councillors who was involved in the vote to do this before, and I'm not sure I understand it either. So I know things have changed in the last year or two since we had the vote, and I'm not convinced that if this was a mortgage, what our interest rate would be and that sort of thing, and how much we'd be paying back and how long it'd take and how much it's going to cost. So that's my concern.
Okay. Any other comments? Councillor Strawn, sorry.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I think there are a number of elements. I think it's imperative that all the council has a full understanding of the financial implications. Exactly what, particularly the new members. We've got 6 new members, which is 40% of the council who were not involved in these decisions in the past. And things have changed nationally and economically since the time we made that decision. I see no merit, unless someone can give a very persuasive argument to the contrary, to agree to a drawdown today, unless we actually need to spend the money, because we'll be paying interest on it. If I've understood some of the figures correctly, it'll be £2,000 a month effectively. So that is a cost to the council. Hopefully we get some interest on that money. But we're undergoing a tender process. And that has already started for a number of projects. It seems to me that from a practical point of view, and indeed a budgeting point of view, that tender process should go through. We're not committed, but we will have a realistic idea of the actual financial consequences of what we're proposing in terms of capital costs. And that will be funded hopefully by the PWLB loan. I'm also mindful that we have to get the approval, or had the approval of the public to the loan, but it was only 7 out of 10 of those who responded. And previously, I think it's been generally much higher than that in favour. So I think there may be concerns from the public as a whole as to the degree that we're spending. So I think that we're also going through the precept process and budgeting process for next year. We've got a couple of pre-precept budgeting meetings to discuss what the proposals are and how much they're going to go. And to my view, and I'm subject to other members, but it would be premature to actually start committing ourselves to costs at this stage. I can see no harm in deferring the drawdown until we've actually got more information with a full report, which all members can easily understand. It will be available to the public as well, because they will be able to understand the implications of what is being proposed. So I think that it's essential that we do go through the tender process. We're not committing ourselves. I think that the report for the 24th of October, in my view, is probably fractionally premature for a number of reasons. Officer time in getting it prepared in detail and the breakdown in detail, particularly as we're having the meetings for the precept. So I think that could be deferred later. But at the moment, unless we actually physically need to draw down money, what is the benefit of actually physically drawing it down and paying it interest on it at the moment? So I think there are a number of combinations, and I know the town clerk wants to come in and say some words here at this stage. So I've said my piece, but actually I'd be interested to hear any other comments, particularly the newer members who haven't been involved in this process before, as to their thoughts and their understanding. We've heard from Councillor Barrett, which I think was very helpful and I think very sensible, because I think he actually summarised a number of the issues very well.
Thank you, Councillor Strawn. Councillor Jones.
Thank you. I actually think Councillor Strawn just answered all my questions, actually. Thank you. I wrote down on my notes when I went through originally was what's the bigger picture before committing. So I think that in itself hopefully sums up where my position is. So maybe if we do hand over to the clerk to maybe answer if that feels the right thing, that would be great.
Before I go to Peter, are there any others? I note you there, Councillor North. Councillor Agnew.
a very short note. On the 24th of October, we were planning to deal with the public, the money. And I think it might be very difficult to decide at the same time on this matter. As Councillor Strong saying, I'd say if there is a way to defer it further, it would be probably better to do.
Okay, thank you, Councillor Agnew. Councillor Northam.
Clarify, I think Councillor Knight and Councillor Strawn are talking about item 9E on the agenda. I was talking about 9A, 9B, 9C, and 9D and 9F. I was not referring to 9E at all. Am I correct in that? Through the chair.
I think so. In terms of the permitting to drawing down money,
I was not talking about drawing down money at all. All
No.
I'm talking about is continuing the tender process.
Correct. So I think that's correct. Yeah. So go on, Councillor.
Point of clarification, item 9C actually doesn't affect BWLB loan, as I understand it at all. So that could be clouding the issue also. And I understand Councillor North's comments, but the proposal did actually cover the drawdown.
What proposal?
Okay, right. So this Councillor Russell's proposal did cover the drawdown and it covered all the other items. Before we go, I'm conscious that the clerk here doesn't want to speak, and it's right to give them opportunity to do so. Peter, over to you.
So I think members are right to say that that some of the maths could be more precise in the sense we're going through process. So in some cases, it's indicative prior to the conclusion of a process. So it's not 100% precise at this point in time. So it could be further refined. The second thing to say is that when you look at the report for 9E, part of the report talks about an indicative timeline about when particular projects might become live. Some of those project dates are within this financial year if members were of a mind to support those projects. So they would start in this financial year and not in the next financial year. I think that Councillor Russell makes a valid point connected to the broad capacity of the organisation to make change happen. When we implemented the last piece of change, there was some learning opportunities there. And there is an issue, I think, that we need to resolve at some point, to think about the project management skills, the capacity, the issues that our very good public realm team have to deal with in the council as part of their business as usual, and whether we have the broad capacity to be able to do this amount of change, which is significant. Anyway, let me just try and answer some of the questions. When you think about this, just to be absolutely clear for those members who weren't part of the old council, there is no new borrowing here. So in the old council, the council agreed a level of precept that is particular to the existing financial year, not the new one, the existing financial year that would service this debt. When we spoke about that before, we did a figure of circa 24k to service the debt, and we increased the Band D impact from 194 to 197, which was an increase in the Band D of £3.07 connected to this. So that's £3.07 to source the debt. One of the interesting questions that some members have raised with me is, what was the determination that we made last time? Was it highly kind of risk averse? Did we go with the variable version or did we go with the fixed version? And actually, at the insistence at the time of the advice from the previous chair of FNGP, which all members took on board, we went with the fixed version. So there is no variable element. So effectively, you have a fixed cost on a reducing balance. Now, it just so happens, and we can put this in the report that you're suggesting, and it may be helpful, that the overall costs connected to this have gone down quite significantly since the original report. And I can address that at another time. So actually, I'm quite pleased to say that actually the 24K is probably now overstating the level of costs associated with it. What I could do for a future report, though, is, and indeed we've started working on this, is I can break down how we service the debt of all of our old PWLB loans, and we've got 4 of them, how we service the debt for tranche 1, how we propose to service the debt for tranche 2. And all of those figures, I'm pleased to see, are sensible and within our financial envelope. There is no new increase to the precept, just to be clear. Yep. I think that's it for now. Let's have a look. Yeah, thank you.
Okay, I'm going to go with Councillor Knight, then Councillor Russell, I think, but we'll see. Councillor Knight first.
I just wanted to respond to Councillor North. So the report for 9A, the recommendation, the second recommendation that members resolve to approve option A that will enable officers to draw down an indicative £183,000 in 23-24 from PWLB. So that is the recommendation for 9A.
Okay, thank you, Councillor Knight. Councillor Strawn, I think, and then we'll go to Councillor Russell.
Yes, I have noted the clerk's explanation, and I think that he's actually justified the reason for the deferral of these decisions in terms of getting the firmer figures, which hopefully may be better than we've been anticipating. The other point is he mentioned that we might have to spend money in this financial year. Yes, the financial year ends at the end of March next year, not the 31st of December. And I don't think that I've seen any particular proposal here that's going to require the drawdown to occur before, say, the 31st of December this year. So we've still got plenty of time, in my view, unless I'm told something very specifically to the contrary, that we can defer to making the decision as to when we draw down until we have the fuller financial information.
Could I then ask, I'm going to ask the clerk that question directly. Are there any particular implications for not making the decision this evening?
So if you refer to page 32, there is only one effectively. And if you look at there, I broke down the indicative timelines connected to the projects, which is on the top of page 32. Most of those relate, I would agree with Councillor Strawn's perception, in the sense that they're not going to start extremely soon. One of them suggests that it should start in January of 24. One suggests that it should start in December of 23. Those are earlier than the other projects. We could defer for a period of time until we're more specific. The sense, I guess, is this is a big change for this council, and it doesn't mean that we're wholly ready to make this massive piece of change and leap. But there is a lot of change here. And we need to be agile enough to respond to this, and we need to be professional enough to respond to this. But there's no easy way of going around this. This is lots of transformational change, which the council is not used to. But what it does do is it evidences to the community that we're in the business of making a real difference and add value to their lives, and that we're moving past doing business as usual and really trying to make a significant change for the community's interests. Thank you.
Thank you, Peter. I think you're absolutely right, but I think the sense is from members that there needs to be a very clear understanding of what the financial implications are of decisions we've made previously, or what the drawdown might be. So I think I'm sensing that the feeling is that we're supporting the projects, but we need to have clear understanding of the implications. So I'm going to go to Councillor Jones, so Councillor Albone first, and then Councillor Jones, and then we will conclude with Councillor Russell after that. Thank you.
Yeah, mine's a
Go on, Councillor Albone.
mine's a simple question. So do we need a resolution to start or continue with the tendering processes for the play area and cemetery projects?
No, we don't, because the tendering process was previously agreed. We're going through a process of now. Yeah.
Go ahead, Councillor Jones.
Thank you. I wanted to pick up on your point of transformational change, because you raised a really valid point, which I think Councillor Russell referred to in your proposed resolution proposal earlier. there are a lot of projects on the table and we all want to work together, members, officers together, to be able to deliver these for the community. And we've spoken about capability and project management, and this sounds like one big program and a program manager sitting over this would be quite valuable. So I was curious to understand what the plans are to upskill officers, which will hopefully accommodate Councillor Russell's concerns and also your acknowledgement of that skill set being potentially not as strong as we would like it to be in our current way.
Go ahead, Peter. Thank you, Councillor James.
Okay, so as some members will be aware, and I'm happy to brief outside of this session, we have a corporate training plan that I'm able to share, and I think actually went out a few weeks ago. We also have individuals continual professional development programs. A number of officers over the last 12 to 18 months have now, we've encouraged them to go through Prince 2, so they've got some professional project management skills. However, having said all of that, I still think there's probably a greater opportunity to share good professional practice with a broader sense of a number of people. So we're on the journey, but I don't think we're in a perfect place. And I do think there's a real challenge here, which is, you know, there is a massive amount of normal day-to-day activity for our public realm team. And it's certainly worth considering how we can factor in that change into a kind of static resource. So it's worth further consideration.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Just one final.
Go ahead then, Councillor North. Then we're going to Councillor Russell after that.
Just to point out that item 9C does not involve any expenditure by the council at all, PWLB or otherwise, and therefore there is no real reason to defer it in any way.
Okay, thank you, Councillor North. Right, so I'm going to go back to Councillor Russell so that we carry on, Councillor Russell.
Well, I just want to answer some of the points that have been raised. We've said that without definite figures, we can't make a decision. And that's why we need the tendering process to continue. And the first point of my first part of the proposal was that final designs and costings of these projects should be approved by PLOS, which means that they need to go ahead. So I'm not in any way suggesting that that process stops. We only agreed in principle to these projects and to the way that the Public Works Loan Board would work. We very strongly kept to this council the final decisions of each stage through, because it is important. Yes, we all want transformational change, but we've got to be prudent with the finances as well. The reason I included Drove Road Chapel in the proposal that I was making, and I understand Councillor North's points completely, but it does involve more money from the Public Works Loan Board because of the problems with the boundary wall. So I think we do need to look at the whole picture. I don't think any of us, and I'm one of the longest serving councillors here, along with Councillor Strawn and Alban, I don't think any of us have a full knowledge of the Public Works Loan Board process. I was very interested that the clerk said that we have 4 loans outstanding. I'm only aware of the one that we took out to buy this courthouse from the County Council back in 2006. I'm not aware of the others, which shows that even as a long-standing councillor, I don't know what's going on. So I do think we need the report that shows all of this. How indebted are we as a council? What are we paying out every year in interest and capital repayments? We don't really know. So I was interested in what the clerk said about the servicing of the debt is already built into our budget. Well, that might be the case for this year, but what's happening next year? I don't understand that 24,000, what is that actually servicing? And I think that needs to be in the report that comes forward. I was pleased to note that we're apparently on fixed interest, and will we still be when we draw down the next tranche is the next question of that. We could decide to defer the projects. I take on board what's said about the Kitelands project, but we still need to be aware that we may need to fund perhaps from our own capital reserves in the interim. We don't quite know how the cash flow is going to go. So I still think that we need to we need to have the whole picture so that we can prioritise what goes ahead and what doesn't, and how it goes ahead and how it's financed. So I would still like to, oh, and one other thing I wanted to say, the clerk has outlined the kinds of training that we offer to our officers and the kinds of support we give them, which is quite right. I think I'd like to request at this point that there's a full report to the Personnel Committee on the 7th of November about training, particularly the project management side of it. And also, it's crossing my mind, if we have such a lack of capacity, do we really need to consider that we need an extra member of staff? Now, we've resisted this in the past because of the impact on the budget, but are we cutting ourselves off at the knees by not having the right skills on board? So there are some big issues here. And if we were to say we need an extra member of staff, then obviously that's another impact on the budget alongside the loans. So I think we need to go into a bit more detail. I understood what Councillor Strong was saying about we're in the middle of a budget process and we don't need to take these decisions now. And also that he felt that asking for something for the 24th of October was too soon. I don't think it's too soon, because I would expect that the clerk has got most of the information that we need at his fingertips, because he's been working with this in detail, but we as councillors aren't privy to what the detail is. So if I may, Chairman, it's final designs and costings of these projects to be approved by PLOS, which means that the tender process goes to completion, that a report should be brought to the meeting on the 24th of October about PWLB, but that we don't take any decisions until our meeting in November about how we prioritise the projects going forward and which may have to wait, and how we fund them. Thank you.
Thank you. So essentially the same as your initial proposal.
Yes.
Subject to the addition around the staff.
Yeah.
Yep.
Well, that's not a proposal. That's asking for the Personnel Committee to look at that issue.
Thank you. So Councillor Knight has seconded that proposal. So I'm going to take that to the vote. All those in favour of that proposal? Okay. That is, I think, so any of those against? Any abstentions? So abstentions 1. So that vote is carried. Thank you very much. So to that extent, then that moves us quite swiftly on to 9G, which is the Orchard Centre. The report is, I think, pretty straightforward. I think Mr. Lord may want to say something as an introduction. So I'll go to you.
Yeah, thank you, Chairman. So after a prompt from Councillor Knight, thank you. The warranty expired in 2017. It was a 2-year warranty, and it started on the 4th of December 2015. That's it. Thanks.
Okay, members, any questions, please? I'm going to go Councillor Knight first, then Councillor Thomas.
Thank you. A question for Mr. Lord. What's the warranty on the new boiler? Do we have that information, please? I'm guessing because it's a commercial boiler, it may be shorter, because obviously for domestic boilers, it can be anything from 2 years to 7 or 8 years. And this boiler has lasted less than 10 years, it seems, which is disappointing, because spares should be available for 10 years.
I would have to come back. I'm afraid I don't have that information to hand.
Okay, thank you.
Same question.
Same question. Okay. Any other questions? Any comments, questions? Councillor Russell.
Just to say that in a way, I'm not surprised about the boiler at the Orchard Centre, because I don't think we were completely happy with the way the Orchard Centre had been fitted out. We took it on because we needed to be able to run the community centre for the public, but we didn't have any say in the building of it. It was between the planning authority, Central Beds, and the developer. So in a way, I'm not surprised. There's other aspects of the fitting out that aren't where they need to be. I think we do need to be reassured about the length of the warranty on this new boiler though. So I would support the officer recommendation as long as we can be assured that the boiler is going to last for a reasonable amount of time, and those better qualified than me can say what a reasonable amount of time should be.
Go on, Isaac.
The quote does reference a warranty, but doesn't specify the number of years.
Okay, thank you. Any other comments? So where does that leave us? Councillor Alban.
Yeah, I mean, I think we need to get on and decide this because it's essential that the season's changing. We need the boiler, so I would like to propose a recommendation as set out in the report.
Do I have a seconder for that at this stage? Councillor North at this stage. Councillor Knight used to speak.
Could I propose an amendment that may be complex, but supporting the recommendation as set out, but we need to check with the warranty on all 4 proposals first, and only proceeding with that if that warranty is equivalent to the warranties provided with the others, because it may be that we're better off paying a bit more for a longer warranty.
Councillor Thomas, thank you.
Yeah, well, I think having had a look at boilers recently, somewhere in 1 to 5 years is quite low nowadays. There's a competitive market out there, so you'd expect somewhere at least 2 to 10. Mine was 10, and I haggled for it. It was 7, I got to 10. Mine's still going, by the way, so after 10 years, but I'm all right.
Thank you. So I have a proposal. I have I think a seconder, then I have a proposed amendment to the seconder. So is the proposer happy to accept the amendment? Councillor Alban?
I think Councillor Knight said this is quite a complicated one, and I agree with him there because I don't know how we're going to work it out. I think we should just get on and do it.
I hesitate to do this, but given that and it is urgent to get this sorted, however, bear in mind, although we haven't made any firm commitment as yet to an additional meeting in October, and we made a commitment that we were only going to have 1 meeting in October, it seems to me that we are drawing ourselves into a position where we might be committing to something without having all the information. We potentially might have committed or might be committed to a meeting in the 24th of October, which might allow us to make a fairly quick decision based on this item. By then, the office may well have had more up-to-date information. So I'm putting it out there. If it doesn't mean that you have to go with that sort of suggestion, but what are your thoughts? Can we defer it, or do you want to go ahead, Councillor Alban, your proposal?
I think we should proceed.
Okay, so that was seconded by Councillor North. Councillor Barrett?
My comment would be that the 4 suppliers are all suggesting the same boiler.
Yep.
So whichever one we go with, it's going to be the same warranty. So I think there's an element here of trust in the officers that they are selecting a supplier with an organisation that has a reasonable warranty. So I agree with Councillor Alban that we should proceed on that basis.
Okay, so I'm going to take it to the vote. So all those in favour then for the supplier A, please show. We have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. All those against? That's 2. And then we've got abstentions. So anyone who's abstained, so I'm going to abstain on this one. That's not very helpful. So, and by abstaining, that means we've got to take. So, if we've got 7, it means the vote is carried in any event. So, thank you very much. Where do we get to? So the next item on the agenda is the urban designer update. And for this one, members, I think having considered this one, I should have mentioned this earlier, I think it's probably appropriate to actually take this one, deal with this one in the exempt session. But I'm going to, and there are various reasons behind that, but I'd like to do that from the chair. Is there any disagreement with that? Sorry? Yeah, we can we take, so my proposal is that we deal with this one in the exempt session. All those in favour, please. Anyone against? Abstentions? So councillor, so that's carried then, thank you. I'm going to move then on to item, we're in 9I. Civic functions, town mayor's expenses and town mayor's charitable activities policy. So members, clearly I'm chairing this meeting, clearly there's a potential implication there. So I'm very mindful of that fact. I've been involved in some of the discussions around this particular policy. Indeed, part of the reason we've gone through this process is that I felt it was appropriate to have a policy, so essentially instigated it. I'm happy to chair this element, but won't contribute in terms of the content, any contributions I've made already. So before I go out to the room, Peter, you're indicating, so I'm going to allow Peter to speak on this one before we go out. So thank you very much.
It's just a 30-second comment, unless Mr. Youngs would like to add any detail to it. So I just wanted to firstly thank those members who've contributed towards the drafting of this document. This is not an officer document. It's an officer and member document. So thank you for your detailed contributions connected to that. As the mayor was saying, the reason why this document has been produced is because currently this council doesn't have a detailed policy connected to the governance associated with this expenditure. And this hopes to fill that gap. Is there anything else, Mr. Youngs, that you'd like to add?
No.
Okay, thank you. I have Councillor Knight first and then Councillor Russell.
Thank you. So full disclosure, I have contributed to this draft. I think we do need to have a policy, so I think that is good. I would like to propose that we adopt the policy as set out with one revision, and that is on the middle of the second page of the policy. It says acceptable claims include, and then the last bullet point is reasonable clothing allowance specific events for the mayor. So I propose we adopt the policy, but without that clause. So without the clothing allowance element.
Do I have a seconder to that proposal? Councillor Russell? Any other, Councillor Russell, any comments?
Yes, I do second that. I think that is very unreasonable actually to have that in there. I have to say that I've got 9 years experience as mayor's consort, deputy mayor and mayor of this council. I find some aspects of this policy not great, but I agree that we need a policy and I think we should adopt it and monitor it closely to see how well it works. So I'm fully in agreement of adopting it with that one sentence removed.
Thank you. Councillor Jones?
I'd like to ask then to clarify why we have that in, because my first thought when I read it was, oh, that's a bit interesting. But then it occurred to me, we don't know what the future holds and we don't know who may have that position of mayor in the future. And if they're not at a point where they may have a suit or something smart potentially, and they can't do that, then this would allow them that opportunity perhaps to be in the right position, I suppose, to do that. That's the only thing I could think of behind. So it'd be good to understand what the reasoning was, that being in the policy, if that's okay, please.
Okay. I think I can answer the question associated with this, because I think there's probably kind of cultural expectation that when you're holding office of that type, that you have the opportunity of purchasing something that looks professional in that setting. It's offered as a draft. It can be changed if you want to. The only other thing I would stress also is, and I should have said this before, this is a policy document. It's a policy document determining practice and ways of working, and it's a financial governance model. What it is not is reflective of any past practices that we may have had connected to any particular expenditure items. It's moving the issue forward rather than reflecting on the past. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Strong?
I've got reservations. I understand exactly where Councillor Jones is coming from, and without reflecting on the past, the points the clerk make were undoubtedly the case, so it didn't deprive any member who was elected to that position from actually fulfilling the role as mayor. But I'm pleased to see that we've amended it to expenses rather than allowance, which at least clarifies part of it. It's going to be open to review anyway, and I'm happy to support it so that we get something in place for the moment. But what I would, even with the amendment, because I believe you're satisfied with that you're not going to be buying yourself a brand new suit tomorrow, Mr. Mayor.
Not anymore.
But I would ask that this actually comes back to the new council or the next term of council to review it after we've had the experience of it working for a period of time. But I'm happy to support it on that basis that it's obviously going to be subject to review.
Councillor Russell.
All I'd like to say, as I said, I've got quite a bit of experience, and if you haven't got the right clothing, it's very difficult to do it. As a woman, I mean, for a man, it's easier. One decent suit and a couple of different shirts and you're there. For a woman, going to all these big civic events, the Lord Lieutenant Service, the High Sheriff Service, all the town councils, you are not going to wear the same suit or the same dress. That's the reality of it. So, you know, I'll be mayor again if you like, and you can give me a completely new wardrobe.
So can I be clear then? I'm not sure whether you're saying you actually want it to be included back in then, Councillor Russell. Is that what
I am not, no.
So what we're saying is it's not included. We're removing that line as being acceptable. I haven't seen anyone propose to say it's unacceptable within a proposal. So that leaves it open to interpretation. Maybe if we should leave it there subject to, and I think that might then allay concerns that for perhaps a future mayor or may feel that it's necessary, and then it could be dealt with by F&GP if that's a requirement. So Councillor Strawn, then Councillor Knight, and then we're going to deal with it. Councillor Strawn.
There is a limit to the expenditure, so with great respect, you couldn't have gone out and bought 3 or 4 suits unless they were cheap ones.
Thank you. Okay, thank you, Councillor Strawn. Councillor Knight.
So the note at the bottom of this policy says it will next be reviewed in October 2025. So well within the term of this council, if we wish to make further amendments.
Okay, so I have a proposal, have a seconder. All those in favour, please. Those against? Abstentions? Thank you very much. That is carried. Okay. Shall we we'll move on then to grants policy update, which is the page 49. Anyone wishing to introduce Mr. Youngs, or are you happy members? The report is fairly straightforward, but do you want to make any additional bits? Nope.
This is really at the request of the chair of F&GP after a discussion regarding not wanting to make the preset meetings too full in January. So we thought that if we could move the second tranche of the grant applications back to either the end of January or to the end of February, and then consider those in March, that would actually just be a more sensible timetable.
Thank you. Councillor Strawn then.
Yeah, I think I'd better either accept the blame or the credit, depending on which way council goes. But it was really to try and make something, I think, more logical, because we had a very short period comparatively between the first and second tranche applications. And then with the budgeting process and the need for the preset to be set in January, to have to deal with the second tranche of the grant applications, particularly from the view of the number, it seemed to be a much more practical and sensible way to still deal with it in the same year, but it spreads it out, and I think it will make it much easier for everybody, officers, members, and indeed the public alike, to deal with it. So I'd happily recommend that we adopt the proposal.
Do I have a seconder, please? A couple of seconders. Any other comments? No. All those in favour then, please. That is unanimous. Thank you very much. Next item, just checking we are where we are. So the next item is the change of meeting. This is fairly straightforward again. Any comments? Ms. Young, do you want to introduce? It's laid out in the report. Happy to.
Yeah, it's very simplistic, really, because the grant policy states that we must make payments for all of the grant awards within October. Therefore, we need to, and because grants that are over £2,000 have to be considered by full council. Therefore, the meeting that's currently on the 24th as F&GP, in theory, would be better as full council, so that all of the grants can be considered at the same time.
Thank you. Given that we've already semi-committed to dealing with things on the 24th of October, it's going to be quite challenging if members don't support 24th of October being a full council meeting. So move it, seconded. All those in favour, please. Thank you very much. Right, good. Next item then, the consultation on local plans, model, financial, etc., etc. Councillor Russell.
Just to say that this was discussed at the county committee meeting a week or two ago, but even as county committee, we felt that it was far too detailed and too complex, too far into the planning process for mere councillors to be able to really understand it. It shows, the whole exercise shows how complex our planning process is. NALCA are asking for whether we agree with what they're going to respond to the government about. I think the best thing is for, if colleagues want to respond to this, to respond individually, because I don't think we've got the capacity of, as a council, as a councillors to do this at the moment. And I certainly don't think we can do it within this meeting. So I would propose that if we want to reply, we reply individually, because it really is into the detail of making a local plan. It has an effect on neighbourhood plan, but the main thrust of 95% of the consultation is about how local plans should be made in the future, i.e. the Central Beds local plan.
So, seconded. All those in favour of that, please. Okay, that's unanimous. Thank you very much. Next item then, so we're on the creation of Biggleswade footpaths numbers 78, 79, Bridleway 80, and extinguishment of parts of Biggleswade footpath number 16, 19, and Bridleway number 11. Members, comments, please. Councillor Alban.
Thank you. Number 4 in the list is the extinguishment of footpath number 19. I'm completely opposed to that. If you look at them, well, if you look at the reasoning behind it as laid out, it says this is duplicated by the newly created section of Bridleway number 11. So, well, I should caveat what I'm going to say, because I'm assuming that that footpath 17 is on the common and footpath 19 is the other side of the hedgerow. So footpath 19 is well used. It says there's a legal dead end on it, but you actually can walk into the common with that. The suggestion that it's duplicated by Bridleway 11, it's a completely different walk. You're walking next to the mainline railway. The other side, you're walking next to a well-established, very mature hedgerow. It's a completely different experience. I would hate to see that stopped up, so I would object to that particular part of this plan.
Okay, thank you, Councillor Alban. Any other comments, members? Okay, so that's a proposal on that element. Do we want to hold fire for now and let's consider the other elements before let's do that. So any other comments in relation to other elements of this document? Councillor Knight.
Yeah, I think that's the only concern I have with the proposal. So if that was a proposal, I'd gladly second it.
Any other comments in relation to this, Councillor? I'm not sure whether Councillor Jones is indicating or not. I think that's a yes.
Sorry,
go ahead.
Yeah, I was refreshing my memory on which bit I was looking at. It was the Bridleway 11 NTP, so point 1 that I'm just a bit confused about. I suppose, why would we get rid of NTP at the top? I don't understand the purpose for it on the plan. If anyone can help me understand that. If we can't, then maybe we could ask them.
Go ahead, Councillor Russell.
I think simply because it's across a field, and if you go the longer way round along the new bridleway and up there, you get to the same point without going across a field, or across the middle of a field.
Yeah, I get that. I think having walked that walk many a time, I appreciate it. Sometimes it does feel a bit strange that you're walking in the middle of a field, but the path is there and it does seem well used. So I suppose it's just understanding from why now, what's the reasoning now for asking for it to get rid of compared to last week or last year, or that would just be interesting to understand from them.
Trying to help. I think it's because they're doing all of the footpaths in this area because of the Lindsell's Crossing Bridge now being in place or about to be in place, and they're looking at all of the footpaths in that area. I think that's why now.
Makes sense, thank you. I think just to harp with the point, I suppose, and completely logical, I'd say see what damage it's doing. Like, why stop it up? It's not causing any problem to anybody on any land or anything like that. Otherwise, it would have been got rid of previously. So I suppose it's all about enjoyment of the countryside. Let's just leave it.
Okay, thank you. Councillor Knight. So
yeah, so I mean, it's interesting. So the point that Councillor Albo made around footpath 19, I think that is around the edge of a field. It's not, to my mind, really disruptive for the landowner, and it's a very pleasant walk, and that's why I think that needs to be retained. The bridleway N to P, it is a bridleway, but it does go through the middle of a farmer's field, and the proposal is to upgrade N to M to bring that up to bridleway status. So yes, it is the loss of some bridleway, but to my mind, I consider that rerouting more reasonable because it's routing it to go along the edge of a field rather than going through the middle of it. So to my mind, I'm more comfortable with that.
okay. Are there any implications for leaving it or not?
Just a question, does it have any relevance or bearing on the land north if it's closed on that proposal? Does it have any on the land north proposal? Does it have any impact? No. Okay.
So I think that clearly, I mean, there's a may speak from the chair. There's a bridleway through the middle of the field that is used. The proposal is to remove that to make it so that it's doesn't seem strange walking through a farmer's field. But I think I understand where you're coming from, Councillor Jones, in terms of what are the implications of if it were, let's say a development were to go ahead in land north of Biggleswade, and then there were a further development proposed, would that potentially be an issue if this bridleway were not across a field? Would it make it more easy for a developer or and I don't know the answer to the question, but whether that's relevant to this particular conversation or not, I don't think so. But it's certain. I think that, am I right in saying that's what the implication there? I think we need to make an assessment based on the information we have in front of us. And my own view is, whilst there potentially might be a concern there, I think on balance it's being dealt with the addition of the bridleway between N and M. And that sort of mitigates the loss, and any future plans would be as they come up. So, yeah. So I'm going to think. Did you want to come back on that?
No, just say thank you.
Okay, so I'm going to go back then to Councillor Albo.
I'd like to talk a little bit about the first one, following on Councillor Jones' comment.
Sure.
So I can understand why you might want to remove a bridleway going across the field in they're replacing it with the bridleway which goes along First Road. I can see no reason why a footpath can't remain there. We might want to stop horses, even motorbikes, I think, can use a bridleway, or bicycles can anyway. So I'd quite like to see that retained as a footpath, personally.
Okay.
Well,
so
it might mess up some developers' plans, but that's fine by me.
Okay. So what I think I have a assembly proposal. I'm going to go back to Councillor Alban for a formal proposal, and members can then vote on whatever the proposal that comes back from Councillor Alban.
Okay, my original proposal was that we object to point 4, the extinguishment of footpath number 19. But I'd like to add with point 1 to retain bridleway number 11, but as a footpath rather than the bridleway.
So, okay, so do I have a seconder for that proposal? Doesn't seem though we've got a.
I can make those as 2 proposals.
Let's do that then. So if you're happy to do that as 2 proposals, Councillor, well, that might work. So 2 separate proposals. So the first one is in relation to objecting to the extinguishment of FP 19.
Yeah, I second that. Can I just say, can we make quite a detailed objection so we're explaining exactly why we're objecting to it, please, in terms of how important that is as a popular walk and the difference between the 2 paths. So
yeah, it's basically the quality of the experience. If we one is walking in a pleasant environment next to a hedgerow, the other is walking next to the East Coast main line, which isn't the same thing.
Okay, so I have a proposal, and do I have a seconder? All those in favour then, please. Okay, thank you. Councillor Oban, did you want to confirm your second proposal, please?
Okay, I'll propose that we object to point 1, the extinguishment of the bridleway, but rather than object, how do I okay, I'd like to propose that the bridleway number 11 end to P is replaced by a footpath.
Do I have a seconder? Councillor Jones seconding. All those in favour, please. That's 3. All those against? That is more than 3. 1, 2, 3. So I think then that vote is lost. Thank you very much. Councillor Alban?
Do we need to comment on the other points that we don't object to? Or is that implied?
I don't believe we need to. If you want to comment, please do so.
Okay.
I think other than that, let's leave it as it is. Yeah, that's so the minutes will have been taken. The officer will respond in due course. Councillor Thomas.
Can I suggest that we add back to FP 19 and FP 17 in parallel are not the same. One's a muddy footpath and one isn't.
So can we include that within our sort of objection comments then, please? Yep.
I'm just supporting what Councillor Thomas has said. It's not a very walkable route, really. The hedgerows are pretty overgrown in places. It is very muddy. So I don't know who is responsible for maintaining the hedgerows there on that side. I'm assuming it's the Fen Reeves, but they do grow into the footpath.
Okay, so we'll take that as a separate thing. So we've got the proposal, it's been seconded, and we've dealt with all the motions on that. So there's nothing else to be dealt with. And if we've got any issues, we'll deal with that in due course. So, so the next item then is the item N, football pitches report. So you'll remember, members, this is come to the council previously. This is the revised version with councillor we have Mr. William, Mr. Hosseini here. Did either of you wish to make any introduction, or are you happy to the report speaks for itself? Okay, Councillor North then.
Thank you, Chairman. Well, I would like to propose that we or suggest that we should accept this with one exception, which is the figure 2 on page 67. The capital expenditure of £100,000 and revenue of 25,000. I think I'm not saying this is wrong, but I think it needs to be properly discussed and properly thought through at PLOS. It's a PLOS issue, and it needs to be recommended by, if it is to be recommended, it needs to be recommended by PLOS. And it's unfortunate, I think we had a PLOS meeting 1 week ago and it was not mentioned even, let alone any proposal brought forward. So that's my suggestion.
So that's a proposal.
A proposal that we accept the report with the exception of the third bullet point, really, subject to and it needs to be subject to discussion and proper analysis by PLOS.
Happy to go for a seconder, or happy to go to comments before we go to the clerk. Any comments before? Go ahead then, Peter.
All I was going to highlight was that this report written by my colleagues, and I've seen this obviously before, is nothing to do with growth at the moment. Growth is there for an indicative sense of direction about what's going to be happening. And as the chair of F&GP is well aware, we'll be putting a detailed growth plan connected to all of the issues within the council for members to deliberate at a further time. So this report doesn't recommend anything to do with growth. It's just there for information at the moment.
Okay. Comments, any other comments, members? Councillor Russell.
Well, I'm hearing what is being said, but that third bullet point says that officers will bring the football facilities growth requirement with supporting quotes to the growth budget meetings. And I think what Councillor North is saying, it would have been good to discuss it at PLOS before it comes forward as a growth budget item. So I would support the removal of the third bullet point, actually, and say it needs to be looked at properly.
Okay. Other comments? Councillor Strawn?
I think the decision on where we're going on this particular point is actually a PLOS issue in terms of their PLOS's desire before it goes to the growth actually budgeting point. But in terms of the actual proposal, what football teams will be moved from Stratton Way up to the Lakes, because that seems to be the suggestion from the proposal, and is the Lakes building suitable for those teams to relocate to. It appears that there's been a general consensus among a number of football groups that they should move, that they should have the smaller pitches at Stratton Way. But there's also great reference made to the Lakes, and we actually don't seem to have had any discussion in any meetings recently about upgrading or how we're going to deal with Stratton Way or indeed with the Lakes. And these should be going to PLOS, I think, ideally, as to the determination. But what's going to happen to the teams that are currently booking at Stratton Way if we implement it this season?
The one team will be offered the new facility at the Lakes, essentially the one that's been displaced from the full-size pitch at the Stratton ground.
Go ahead, Councillor Strawn.
Have they been consulted?
Yes, to begin with, in terms of yes they have. Yeah.
Well, and are they happy with that proposal?
I think members may be seeking a bit of a stronger assurance than that, given that we're looking to make changes. I hesitate to say, but we need some clarification. If we are relocating a team from Stratton Way to the Lakes, the clerk is saying that they have been consulted and we're happy with that. We'll take that. I think we take that, and then if there are further conversations, we'll need to deal with that. Go on, Peter.
Just as a matter of record, because I think it's important, the council wrote to all stakeholders connected to this to understand any concerns that they may have and to highlight some potential changes that we were deliberating. 100% that letter went out to everybody concerned. Certainly, as far as I'm aware, I haven't been advised that there's been any negative elements associated with it. Indeed, there's lots of positive issues around setting aside smaller football pitches so that more younger people within the community can take advantage of that. Thank you.
Councillor Strawn?
With respect, that wasn't the question that I was asking. I appreciate that it is beneficial for the community as a whole. I'm looking at the teams have already been committed for this season and have presumably done a block booking somewhere, and are they happy to be moved? We've had assurances they've been consulted, but I haven't actually heard a positive conclusion that's saying, yes, we'll be happy to move up to the Lakes.
Peter?
I'm not aware of any negative issues connected to that. So no, as far as I'm concerned, yes, they're okay about it. Yeah.
Councillor Barrett.
I'd like to make a proposal that on the report, if members would just like to have a look at the fourth paragraph down of page 67, it says officers assess the current condition of the facilities, and then there'll be the growth requirements and supported quotes will be in the autumn growth budgets meeting rounds. I'd like to suggest that paragraph's changed. So it says will be presented to PLOS, and figure 2 and all those numbers and everything in there is removed from this report, which then means the bullet point on the following page is not required. That will allow us to sign off on the rest of the document, and the figure 2 and everything else goes forward to PLOS as being suggested.
Okay, so had a proposal, that's a slight amendment to the proposal. Is there a requirement, do you think, to remove this there, or do we just make sure that it's rather than remove it from the report, we remove bullet point 3? Go on, Councillor Strachan, you're wanting to.
I don't think we can remove it from the report because it's already a matter of public record. I think we can approve items 1 and 2 and add an additional item that a report be sent to PLOS with regard to the additional items as suggested in figure 2. I think that would actually cover the point. You can't undo something that's already on the public record. So I think we've got to adapt the proposal so that the concerns are reflected and that it goes back to PLOS.
Could I, from the chair, just ask one final question before we go to the vote? So the proposal is to put 2 40 by 30 pitches in there. Is that optimum? Is that the maximum you think that can be on there? So you've looked at the dimensions and you're happy that we couldn't fit a 3rd one in there? Absolutely sure. Okay. I'm just thinking at some point that maybe, depending on how things work out, we might consider another option or perhaps a further smaller bit. Yeah. Okay, Councillor Straw, thank you.
There's another observation I make on the financing, and that relates to the final paragraph on page 67 in respect of no section 106 funds and alternative means of funding. When we go have a report on the financial aspects, I would like a full report, please, on the section 106 monies that are available and what they can be used for in Biggleswade, because I think we need that to understand that with all our proposals as to what we can get from it. But also, if we're looking at football pitches, and Biggleswade is very poorly served by football pitches within the parish, we need to know what other sources of funding might be available, and indeed whether in fact we'll be eligible for Football Foundation, Football Association and other awards. So I think that's part of the process. I don't think we necessarily need to include that as part of any proposal tonight, but I hope officers will take that on board.
Okay, so the proposal is then to accept points 1 and 2 on the report, not accept point 3, sorry, in the recommendations. I think I have a seconder. So all those in favour of that, please. Any against? And that's unanimous then. Thank you very much. So we're now moving on to planning application. So Unit B, so 10A, Unit B, Normandy Lane, advertisement, 2 illuminated fascia signs. Comments, please.
Move no objection.
Everybody happy with that? I'm seeing nods. Okay, thank you. Next one then is 93 Rose Lane, proposed 2-storey side extension. Comments, please. Councillor Jones.
Sorry. This one didn't have any consultation documents on the portal for some reason, which is unusual compared to the others. So I just wondered if we had the time within the application to see if those came to light or not, just to cross-check everything.
I think when you say consultation documents, you're referring to where residents are being consulted. Is that right?
They're from, so normally on the CBC portal, it has the recommendations from the different departments, whether or not they've got concerns or not, but there was nothing, which was unusual compared to previous ones I've seen. But I'm not an expert in planning, so I just wanted to query why that might be.
I didn't pick up on that particular one. Councillor Barrett?
That they are there. So maybe you just had an issue. Because I looked at Network Rail that had come back and said they were fine with all of development and everything that's being done.
Oh, very strange.
Yeah,
Okay, then
so
I'll
maybe
do
it's a timing issue or
maybe.
something.
Okay, thank
But they
you.
are there.
Perfect.
Okay.
Then
there you go.
I haven't read them, so hopefully
Councillor
somebody
Barrett has them
has.
in his hand. There you go. So subject to that, then, and the information being there, are there any other comments? Do I have any proposals?
Subject to neighbours.
Are we happy with that? I'm seeing nods there. Okay. 45 High Street, decommissioning of bank, removal of existing signage, removal ATM, etc. Comments, please. Councillor Russell.
No objection.
Councillor Storr, did you wish to speak?
An observation, it's retrospective, as I think they've done most of the works.
Okay, it may well be. So proposal is no objection, subject to neighbours. Are we all happy with that? Yes, okay, thank you. 41 High Street, no, this is retrospective. This is the erection of the outbuilding behind Willow. Comments, please. What are your thoughts on this one? Correct, yeah. So go ahead, Councillor Barrett.
I'll break the ice. I said I don't know the history of it, but it's a building that's there and is being used. Yes, it's retrospective, which is obviously not ideal, but I would suggest we live as is.
Okay. Councillor North.
It's been there quite a long time. It was put up by the people when it previous occupants who run, wasn't it some sort of kitchen design business that they had, and they put it up as a sort of where they could show off their wares, and it was, and we remarked at the time that it had gone up without planning permission, but nothing was. I mean, it's not a big deal really. It looks quite nice actually along there.
I'm going to go to Councillor Knight, and I think Councillor Alban wishes to speak. So Councillor Knight.
So it is taking up parking spaces in a car park as far as I can tell, which, you know, if we assume, I think we have to assume it's an application for something someone wants to build, and the fact that they have already built it and haven't got planning permission is kind of irrelevant. So I'm going to start from the perspective of it's a car park and someone wants to put a porta cabin in the car park. So there's a loss of parking, and then you have to consider the traffic to and from that building and the potential use of that building. For example, if it was to become, I don't know, a branch of We Buy Any Car, which it might be able to do with the planning permission it's got, would that be acceptable? And I would say no. Therefore, I think we should object.
Okay, thank you, Councillor Knight. Councillor Alban.
I'm pretty sure we did have a planning application for this. So I don't know what the history of that was. Was it approved? Was it rejected? So it might be that they do actually have permission.
From the chair, my recollection is that it had planning permission for a temporary building, and then that planning permission has expired, and as a result they are retrospectively applying to regain planning permission on what was temporary. In the meantime, the ownership has changed. So previously, you're right, it was the kitchen company, but they actually had this building in there to sell the building rather than actually the displays. So and I think it's quite right, it was put up without our permission at the time, and then I think I'm not absolutely 100% on this around whether it was retrospective at the time, but it certainly did have planning permission, but it was only on a temporary basis. That doesn't mean anything in relation to this, of course, but that gives a bit of history. We need to make a decision whether we support this being here and are not going to object, or we are going to object. I am looking for a proposal. I think, Councillor Knight, did you make a proposal there?
No idea whether I've got the support of the room, but it's only one way to find out. So I propose that we object on the grounds of loss of parking, and there's not an adequate survey of the traffic impact of putting that commercial building there and how people are going to get to and from it.
Do I have a second of that proposal? Councillor Russell. So we have a proposal, we have a seconder. Anyone wish to comment further? Councillor Jones.
Quick question. This is the one, just to be sure, I'm just trying to open it again quickly, where they're using it as storage now.
Correct.
For the charity shop, yeah? Okay. And it's been there for so long, which I get, but if it's helpful and it's not impacting their parking, trying to understand the reason for the refusal, that's all. potential.
I think Councillor Knight has explained, but Councillor Knight, feel free to go over.
So I guess my concern is, should they decide they now wanted to turn it into a shop, would they already have planning permission and the right class of use to do that without coming back to us? So it might be storage today, but perhaps it becomes something which creates vehicular
And they
traffic
can do
in the
that.
future.
It doesn't need a different classification.
Well, I'm not sure, but I think that my sense is no, probably not.
Okay,
It was commercial in the first instance because it was a showroom, so it would be the same as the main building.
okay, thank you. Councillor Strawn.
Noting all the comments, could we put a time limit on it, as the previous building there had a time limit on it which has been exceeded, and there, so if one puts a 5-year limit on it, it should stop these issues that everybody's expressing concern over, because it limits it. It can remain there. It seems that it's a historical issue that's gone wrong in the planning sense, but if you put a time limit on it, then it could answer all arguments.
Are we also looking at then sort of the comments of being concerned about being used for commercial purposes other than storage? Could we put something in the recommendation that says, a condition that says actually it cannot be used for this? Clearly, we're not the planning authority, but if the proposal were to suggest something of that nature, we could then ask the planning officer to consider that. So I guess, Councillor Knight, I'm asking you whether you wish to add that an amendment.
I think we can object to it unless the condition is placed on it to ensure it's only used for storage.
Would Councillor Knight add a limited period to it, say 5 years, so that way then it should cover all bases?
So go on, Councillor Barrett.
I agree with the time limit. I think that's a very good suggestion. But given that it's been there for a long time and it has been used for a showroom, and unless someone tells me it was an issue during that time, I don't understand why we'd have an issue with it just continuing to be allowed for what its intended use was. Why we would have a concern now because it's come up on a piece of paper.
Good challenge. Councillor Russell.
I think because this is a full planning application, and so it has implications for the future. Previously, it was a temporary application. So now we're giving carte blanche, if we agree to it, for anything in the future, rather than something that was time limited. So I think I seconded what Councillor Knight said. I'm happy with the additions to the proposal. I think it's right that it's time limited.
So to be clear, we're not objecting to this, subject to it not being used as a commercial property, a selling property, and there is a time limit on this application as is. Is that okay? I'm going to take it to the vote, unless anyone else wishes to comment. I'll take that one to the vote. All those in favour, please. Against? That's carried. Thank you. So next item then, where are we? 26 Ival Gardens, erection of part single and part 2-storey front extension. Comments, Councillor? Yours is a non-pecuniary interest, isn't it, Councillor? Yeah. Any comments, Councillor Alban?
The arboricultural officer has raised concerns about this, about how near it is to a tree with a TPO, and saying it needs an impact assessment. So I guess we could not object, subject to that impact assessment being carried out.
Okay, anyone else wish to comment? Councillor Strawn?
If it's not just being carried out, but being the impact, that report being taken into account in whatever's decided, because you can have a report carried out, but if you don't take any notice of it, it's pointless.
So Councillor Strawn being very loyally there. Councillor, I'm quite right, Councillor Strawn. So Councillor Albone, are you happy with that slight amendment? So I would have a second of Councillor Albone's proposal. Councillor Barrett, all those in favour, please. Thank you. Okay, that's carried. Next one then, 20 Eagle Farm Road, demolition of existing conservatory, erection of single-storey rear extension and detached single garage with storage. Comments, please. I'm guessing from that there's no comment. Councillor Jones?
No, I just wanted to apologise. I got the wrong thing earlier. It was this particular one that had the consultation papers. My mind is just, it's late, so apologies.
No problem.
And this is the one that didn't have the consultation documents on when I checked.
Right, fine. However, any other comments then? So I'm sensing then this is no objection, subject to neighbours. Thank you. Item 10G, 19 St John Street, single storey rear extension, comments? Yeah, it is subject. I mean, it is a little bit of a bigger extension, but I don't think it actually causes significant harm to the area. I mean, it's a removal of the conservatory and the extension probably makes the site more usable, as long as there's no impact on the neighbours. So if we're happy with subject to neighbours, yeah, okay. And then number 5, Chapel Fields, the work to trees in the conservation area. Any comments? Are we happy with this one? No, okay, thank you. So we'll move on then to item 11, planning application outcomes. Comments, please. Happy to note. Okay, thank you very much. Item 12, accounts. Councillor Strawn, did you want to comment, or anyone wish to comment, please?
Well, I think subject to any observations members have, note we approve the accounts. Again, I think the detail in the appendix is actually very helpful. It does help members who wish to raise questions. It highlights things that they can receive clarification on. So I think it's a big improvement. And I think the important thing is the transparency around the fact that the documents are also available for members and members of the public should they wish to scrutinise in a bit more detail. So, Councillor Alban, do you want to comment?
Yeah, it's a question really about the town centre general, which is sort of not quite halfway down. So the commentary says this includes 9.1k national rail. So I did talk to the chair of F&GP before this because I wondered what it was, but it may be that it's contributions from Grasmere, but can we have that either confirmed or otherwise?
I'm looking for some confirmation. Mr. Youngs is here, so there you go.
Yes, it is.
It's a simple one. Yes, it is. There you go. Thanks, Rob. Any other comments then? No. So the proposal was to accept the accounts as laid out. Are we happy with that? All those in favour, please show. Thank you very much. So we'll move then to, so we're going to then move to item 13, which is the UK Shared Prosperity Fund. This is a letter from the executive member for Central Beds. Any comments, please? Councillor Russell?
Just to note it and look forward to hearing more.
Okay. Go ahead, Councillor Strawn.
I think actually we should need to be a bit more positive on this because I think we've got to actually come up with some schemes sooner rather than later. And looking at the item that's just been moved to exempt, I wonder in fact whether this is something that could assist with the funding for that at that time. So I think we should actually be proactive on this in saying, yes, we are interested. What do we need to get from it? Because there are opportunities here, I think, for the benefit of the town, courtesy of someone other than our ratepayers.
Peter, do you want to speak?
Yeah, members will be aware from the status report that they have every Friday that there was an evening meeting that officers attended at CPC this evening. There's a training session associated with this. There's a further catch-up next week, which is timetabled with senior officers of CPC. Of course, we've exercised our judgment here and said, yes, we're definitely interested. We want to understand the process and we want to make sure we get the right bids in on time. But yeah.
I'm going to go to Councillor Strawn, then Councillor Russell.
Or when will we hear back from officers on this, please?
Given that, I'm going to pass that back to Peter, given that with the next full council meeting is in November, not the 24th, we're not dealing with that element of the 24th. So I think, Peter, if there's something that that needs to be brought to members' attention in relation to this item, I guess it could be within your weekly update or some other method of communication, I would think.
I'll get a substantial report to you as soon as I possibly can, but obviously we need to identify the right projects that this can source. And one of the key things about this is understanding the breadth of opportunity. Yeah.
Councillor Russell.
I think I'll reserve my comments to the urban designer item because we're in danger of going off at a tangent if we don't know exactly what we need to do.
Okay, so we've proposed to note it. Is there anything else anybody wishes to speak? Councillor Barrett?
Just a very quick one. I'm not sure if I quite heard what the clerk was saying exactly, but did we respond to this letter and say thank you very much? That's very kind of you, etc., in a formal way?
Not in that way, but it's part of our shared consultations that take place with CBC, and we're engaging with them as we speak.
Did we respond to this person who's wrote the letter?
Don't believe we did. No.
Okay, good. No. I think it would be nice if we did.
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay.
Everyone agrees with that. Thank you.
Fair point. Okay, so conscious then that would conclude the public session, other than we have a member of the public present. Did you wish to speak, sir?
I do indeed, yes.
Okay, so it's any item in relation to sort of council business. Would you mind stating your name, sir, please?
Yes, I just want to voice my concerns about the volume of commuters parking in home presence.
Right.
Which is around the corner from here. It's got to the situation now, it's becoming very dangerous. Some of the cars are being parked on corners, double parking, stopping sometimes GPS deliveries, the odd ambulance or something can't get through it on occasions. And one occasion, you had to have police out to have vehicles removed, so they're doing double parking. My biggest concern is for children safety, cyclist safety, and people with disabilities, with disability cards, actually use that section of the road. The volume of parking is creating black spot on that corner. So vehicles are coming around that corner, other vehicles are coming this way, they can't be seen. So 20 miles an hour, 20 miles an hour, 40 miles an hour, it's going to happen. And what I'm worried about is the fact that children, scooters, people on push bikes, and also disabilities, people coming around that. And one day or another, it's going to happen. It's going to be an accident. It needs somebody to go out and do an investigation. Whether a traffic will go around there and do an investigation, find out whether they can put double yellow lines places, excuse me, to try and avoid the amount of traffic.
Okay.
A lot of the parking is done inconsiderately, to be honest, because I live in one of the small bungalows down there, and some of the residents down have a job to walk to their cars, and sometimes the commuters will park their cars outside the bungalows. So sometimes they can't even park their own cars there. Also, I've had one resident today say that when she comes home from work, you can't find somewhere to park her car. And they start from 6 o'clock in the morning, commuters, and it goes all the way through to about 9 o'clock in the morning. You get the occasional late one, but then it carries on through to about 6, 6:30. Sometimes if the trains are late, 8 o'clock, 9 o'clock. Sometimes even many of the cars are overnight. So it's becoming a volume. I don't know whether we can, I mean, I've spoke to Highways Department. They don't seem to be too concerned about it. But situation is, it's getting dark. One worried about is the fact that my division, someone's going to get hurt. So I don't know whether anybody can help with the traffic around there. Just take a few pictures or just investigate what they can do to try and avoid some of the positions of the cars out there.
Okay, thank you very much for bringing this to our attention.
Okay, I'm just trying to, make a point for some of the residents there. And I've seen it for myself, that And when you come out, especially the corner we got, goes into the main part of the road. We've got a cul-de-sac this side, which I think is a parking area for the residents, bungalows on one side. But the sign that used to be there, it's suddenly disappeared. And that's always filled up with commuters, and the side road as well is filled up. And also where the bend goes, where the road goes round to the main part of the road, on that corner, there's people parking on that bend as well. So therefore, when you're coming out this way, got a black spot. So nothing.
I think we've got a very clear idea about what we're talking about now. I think it's a little unfortunate. I mean, Home Crescent was one of the areas that didn't have the permit parking instigated as part of the process a number of years ago. I think as a town council, we don't have any direct responsibility for highways or managing the highways, but we do have a responsibility to our residents, and I think it's important that we so that we take your comments away, think about how we might act as a council. I think certainly we should be writing to highways, see if there's something that they can do. We certainly need to be getting the enforcement officers down in that area to see whether there's anything that they can do, and then I think probably the next stage is then inviting highways officers down to establish whether the WLOs down there are appropriate or not. But I think that's something we don't have any authority over it, but we can certainly write to highways to ask them to act on our and your behalf. I'm going to, Councillor Alban's indicating. Did you want to comment, Councillor Alban?
Yeah, just suggesting that we get the ward CBC ward councillors involved also, because they'd be able to pursue it more aggressively than we can.
Quite right. Thank you for that.
It is very concerning when you see the volume of cars down there.
Yeah, I think we absolutely agree, and I think it must be very difficult when you're directly that close to the railway station and commuters aren't parking in the car park, parking on your road. So yeah, we take it very seriously, and quite right, Councillor Alban, we'll certainly write.
I put myself out and gone out. I've actually approached drivers. One of them been very good and said, "Well, where else will get parked?" So I said, they said, possibly just railway car park.
Well, I think so legally they're not wrong. However, I think there's a separate issue here. So I think probably, as I say, we will write to highways and we'll try and get some action taken beyond and bring the ward councillors involved into it. Okay. All right. No problem at all. So thank you.
Thank you.
So members, I'm now going to include the public session. Yeah, absolutely. Take that. That's fine. So now going to conclude. Thank you. The public session, and then we'll go into exempt to deal with item 12. So thank you very much.